Hello, hey, this is Ian Carlin from Ronin JKD and the Empty Cup podcast. I just wanted to jump on YouTube here real quickly and talk a little bit about my time in Systema, how I got involved with it, and my evaluation of the art as an art. And I do this because I've recently interviewed Kevin Secours on the Empty Cup podcast, which was phenomenal, and I loved that interview. And he is a brilliant martial artist, and he is probably one of the best, if not the best, emanations of Systema that I've seen. And and the other reason is because like I don't necessarily have a favorable demeanor towards Systema. If you look at some of my videos and some of the things I say here and there about it. And so I kind of wanted to take a moment to clear up my thoughts on Systema and lay them out for you as at least they come to my head as I'm making this live video here. So I want to start with where I started with Systema and why I got involved in Systema in the first place. And that was when I just barely had come out of Wing Chun Kung Fu. I went into Sayat Kali for just a little while, maybe about 6 months or so. But I was kind of looking for something that I thought was comparable to Wing Chun. Something that didn't fight force with force, something that used the kind of the same power source as Wing Chun, the relaxation type power, somewhere in the middle of maybe a soft style or a hard style, somewhere in the middle of between something what you might call an external style or an internal style, but kind of a little bit more on the internal style still. And the co-host of my show, Shad, um, uh, started telling me about Systema. He started he said, "Hey, we got to try this and stuff." So I was like, "Okay, let's give it a whirl." And so we started ordering videos. Him and I both did, and we actually even had another friend who got involved with this. And we just kind of went three ways on videos, and we all kind of shared them. And we got a number of the videos. We got Systema, Empty Hand, and this was all mostly from Vladimir. That was the videos we got. We didn't really get any of the other emanations of Systema, um, just because there's enough there in the Vladimir Vasiliev school that was enough to keep us going, and that was kind of what we were interested in anyway, because he was kind of the name of it all. There were a couple other people who practiced Systema, who weren't of the Vladimir school, and I understand that, and they had videos out at the time, but I never really got in contact with any of them, or really, other than looking at some YouTube clips and things like that. And this was back when YouTube was kind of first becoming popular, maybe about '06, '07. I'm not sure the exact date. So we started trying to uh, learn Systema, basically. And I liked it because it tended to follow the same principles of Wing Chun, except for that it had more throws, and it seemed to be a little bit more free with the footwork than I was used to in Wing Chun. And so I liked it. And, I think at the time I was still very impressed with some of the esoteric stuff. And I even got some of the, no touch knockout things. I'm not saying I was a believer in it, but I wasn't as skeptical of it as I should have been anyway. Just right off the front, I was just kind of looking at it. I was just kind of like, well, what's this? So that was actually one of them. I mean, we got a bunch of DVDs. We've got the knife one, the defense in close quarters. I think I mentioned the hand to hand. We got the wrestling one. We got the psychic ability one. I mean, we got a bunch of DVDs, and plus looking at stuff online was becoming kind of popular too. Um, and I was trying to look for something to kind of throw my hat in the ring and really work towards. And then I went up to the immersion camp in Toronto. I think it was Toronto. I can't remember. It's in Canada somewhere. Uh, Forgive me for my American ignorance, but it was up there somewhere. And I was really kind of disappointed. And I'll just explain kind of what happened, okay? And then I'll lay out my pros and cons of my evaluation of it, and a little bit of the redemption of it. Um, so what happened up at camp? Well, first off, it was a lot of money, and some friends helped me with it. Shad, being one of them, actually paid a couple $100 to have me go up, and then the idea was to kind of go up and learn it and get certified in it, and then come back down and start teaching it. And but I think by that time, I don't mean to put words in Shad's mouth, but I think by that time, by the time I kind of went up to it, he was already starting to, you know, get out of it, a little bit, kind of becoming disillusioned with it. And when I first saw the videos, I was like all on board. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And I did notice that sometimes people fell and that it was slow work and things like that. But the justification in my mind was that it's important to work slow, but if that's all you ever work, that's the problem. I knew that going in, so it wasn't as big of a deal for me to see them working slow or to see them fall or something like that. The question is not did they practice that way, but could they do it that way, um, under pressure? That was the idea. So I still don't have a problem with people practicing their moves slowly to get them down with a compliant partner. The question is after you've learned the move, does the move work in real life situation? And that's where you have to pressure test. And that's where you kind of decide what's good, what's bad, what works for you, what doesn't. So the fact that people kind of point out sometimes, oh, well, that's slow or that's a non-cooperative opponent. I'm like, big deal. You've got to learn the technique, but if that's all you do, then there's a problem. But just pointing out that somebody's learning the technique isn't a problem for me. So I went up there and I was actually very, very disappointed. Um, the first thing I was disappointed about was the lack of anything technical, that they didn't teach you any type of combat. It wasn't really it was all preparatory combat. It was all push-ups and breathing and rolling on the ground and rolling over people and having people do push-ups on your neck and having people do push-ups on your stomach. And I know people are going to, people from the other side are going to think, well, this is all preparatory for, good martial arts defense. Okay, but I didn't pay $2,000, 2,000 something odd dollars, plus a plane ticket, plus expenses of traveling there and back in a hotel room to, traveling from the airport to the school and back from the school to the airport. I didn't, pay all that money to learn to do push-ups and breathing. So that was the first part that kind of irritated me. The second part that irritated me was the fact that I didn't seem to get the help that I needed, and there were even at times where I would ask directly for some help, and I was basically looked at like I was from outer space. And I was really disappointed in that aspect as well. There was one time where I was trying to work this escape, what they call escapes. It's not like escape from armbar or something, but basically they put their fist on you and they push, and you're supposed to dissipate the pressure. And so I was, I was really disappointed in the fact that um, that they didn't help me. So I was working on one escape, and I actually went to Vladimir and I said, you know what, I'm having trouble. It was like on my side, kind of in the middle of my stomach. And I was like, I'm having kind of trouble with this. And he just looked at me like, oh, so what, And I was just like, and I'm not saying he treats everybody that way. I mean, we all have bad days. I'd hate for somebody to make a whole video on, a bad day that I've had, or, just not really focusing or something like that. And, but it happened to me, I mean, that's all I'm saying, is it happened to me. And I had to say, hey, are you going to help me out or not? And then he finally helped me out. So I was like, okay, thank you. But geez, couldn't you You know, I mean, it wasn't like, oh, here, well, let me help you. It wasn't like a normal, like you would normally think of with any instructor. You know, if I was had a student who come up and said, you know, I'm having problem with this POC to LOP sow drill or something like that, or I would say, okay, well, let's look at it. Let's see what you're doing. It was just a matter of, oh, well, so that was the second thing that that irritated me. And then the third thing that irritated me and really left me disillusioned was, I'm struggling to even say this because I don't want to come across as arrogant or anything like that, and I'm really not. You know, I consider myself to be a fairly competent martial artist, but by no means the best martial artist in the world. There are plenty of people who can kick my butt, um, but so I mean, I say all that in preface to, I was really underwhelmed with some of the top students of Systema, especially people who had been through, you know, like particularly with Vladimir the whole time. That really kind of, I mean, people who had been there for like, been in Systema for like 5 years, you know, and I'm just like, I'm not, you know, I'm not too thrilled about your martial skills. Now there were people for there from all over the world, and there were some phenomenal talent. People there who could literally kick my butt with no problem at all. And I don't have any problem admitting that. But I, you know, as I was looking at people who were like, oh, I've been Vladimir's student, I've been here for 5 years, and I was just like looking at their skill and sparring with them a little bit as they would let me spar with them, and just going, you know, you've been doing this for 5 years and you're not that good. I'm not going to put any names in there, and I'm sure I'm going to get hate mail over this kind of thing, but oh well. You know, I'm just telling you my experience. I'm telling you my evaluation. I was not impressed with the level of martial skill that that I saw by people who had been doing Systema for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. You know, so it was. I did not. I, I I didn't find them to be impressive, nor did I find them to be a challenge, quite honestly. So just being blunt. So that really kind of irked me. The other thing that happened, that I guess, so let's now talk about some of the good things that happened. I did like their breath work. I find the Systema style of breathing and dealing with kind of the psyche to be very good and very competent. It's not the only way to learn that, but it's very good. And I really do like the breath work in Systema. I value it quite a bit and have implemented it into my own training and into my own what I pass on to my students, my own curriculum. So I found that to be very effective. The other thing that happened is I did get taken down by Vladimir, and it was pretty insane. I did, you know, he was working with another student and he was doing some movement on him, and I said, well, can you do that on me? And he said, sure, no problem. He came up to me and he twisted my shoulders kind of, you know, uh, fairly strongly, I guess I'm trying to say. And I twisted like this, and that exposed kind of my inner knee thigh area. And as I twisted, he kicked on my thigh, and that threw me to the ground. And I kind of caught myself, and then he kicked me on the other side. So I was on the ground, and this happened literally in like maybe a second. I mean, he just literally came up and went, and I was on the ground. It was really cool. So I don't have any doubts that he was legitimate, or that he couldn't hold his own in a fight. I did not fall for him. I did not resist him either. Okay, so I didn't resist him either, but I didn't fall for him. I did not fall. I mean, he literally threw me to the ground in a matter of a second, maybe a second and a half, and yeah, it was pretty cool. So the other thing that happened is they spent a lot of time doing groundwork, and not really like techniques on the ground, but we did spend a lot of time like rolling around on the ground, and like somebody would like go around the back of your head and you duck out of it and push on them and stuff like that. And so what came out of that was a love for groundwork that I didn't have previously. The other thing that was very good was their striking. I have to hand it to them. Their striking is very similar to what you'd find in Wing Chun, which I found to be very explosive and very good. Now, that's not to say just because I found their striking good and they can damage you seriously. And I know this because I can damage people very seriously with striking. That soft style, bordering upon hard style striking that many of you know if you've been in Systema. That was phenomenal. I mean, that was legit. I did like that. Um, so those were good aspects that came out of it, at least some things that I learned that I could see being a positive aspect of it. So let's talk a little bit now about my evaluation of the system altogether. I would say if you are going to do Systema at all, if you're interested in it, do combat Systema. You're going to get all the good stuff that is in Systema that you want to learn and that actually works from Kevin. And probably all the junk is left out. And probably there are other people out there who are really good too, but he's about the best, in my opinion, probably the best emanation right now. There might be a couple other people who come close, but he's really super good. So I would, if Systema is an art that you look at and you like, I would definitely go with his organization. So what are the good and bad though of Systema? What is the stuff that I would take away, that I would throw away, that I would keep? Well, I would certainly keep the breath work. I would keep the striking. I would keep the principle drivenness of the art. But that's not unique to Systema. But a lot of the principal ideas of how to shift the body. If you grab a wrist and pull on it, you're not just pulling the wrist, you're pulling the spine. Those kind of things, I think are good. The striking, I think I said that already. I might be repeating myself. Forgive me if I am. I think those are all very good. The things I think are not good, and that is okay, so let's break it down. Number one, too much compliance. Way too much compliance on the part of the practitioners to where it becomes almost it becomes, I'll be honest with you, unrealistic. And I have a video where I talk about one bullshido move that will never work, and it came out of Systema, and it only works if the partner is completely compliant. And so how it builds is they go from compliance to a throw, and that throw works really good if somebody's under compliance. But it doesn't work so well if they move at all. So non-compliance people, just being thrown, falling down, are falling down because they're not resisting. Okay, so a move might work against a rag doll. You know what I mean? Like I might be able to twist a rag doll and twist them and then throw them to the ground, but and it might work. Biomechanically, yes, if I kick somebody in the knee and twist the knee slightly and then throw them a chop on the side of the neck at the same time, yes, that person will go down. But that is different from somebody, when you do that, pushing that knee towards you and moving their hands so that you can't chop that neck. Different story altogether. Okay, so non-compliance partners are too much compliant partners, or not them not putting up a resistance and just working with that. And the BS, all the bullshit. Okay, sorry for the cussing, but I mean, quite honestly, the no-touch knockout has got to go. This is just nonsense. I don't care who you are, you will not do a no-touch knockout on me. All right, it just won't happen. I will not fall for you. You won't do a no-touch knockout on me. And some of the, even though the strikes in some sense are legitimate, they carry it too far into BS. So, for instance, oh, this strike will make you laugh. Yeah, right. Or this strike will this strike will make you think internally. There's too much esoteric stuff, that, to be honest with you. Um, and and then the third thing would be lack of defined technique. Principles can only get you so far. Okay. Um, Part of the problem that I had with it is it was just like, okay, well, this throws this person this way. Okay, but how exactly do you take them down? I'm all for principle driven movements, but it's different than, say, like even Aikido, who has, which has like Ikkyo, Nikkyo, Sankyo, Yankyo. Okay, with this is how you take a person down. You come up under the elbow, you twist that elbow until you get to the middle of about where your belt is. You turn into the person. There has to be some of that, and there isn't any of that. They just kind of expect you to figure it out, and that's part of the reason I think that people who had been with this system for like 5 years couldn't really fight that well. Now, people who had come from other systems who already had kind of good techniques, and then implementing Systema attributes, have done well. But this lack of technique, and this quote unquote solely principle driven, doesn't really get you anywhere. And so I would say those are my three biggest criticisms of it, and that's the evaluation, the good and the bad. Can you make Systema work? It depends on what you mean by making it work. Can you make it effective in a fight? Yes, I think you can. It depends on how you work it and what you actually do with it, and if you pressure test it. If you pressure test it and then maybe slightly mix it with some other stuff that to get a technique out of it, so actually what an armbar looks like, what a triangle looks like, that kind of thing, and you're not just going, well, when he pushes me this way, I just scoot out, and then I grab his head and I put my leg over his head, and then I got an armbar. But if you don't know, oh, I got to put my leg over his head, the thumb's got to be up, I got to use my hips, got to be below his elbow. If you don't know that, you can figure it out. You can, but it's going to take a whole hell of a lot longer. Why not just teach the actual damn technique, and the principle along with it? So you can make it work. I think, again, I said this probably a bunch of times, but it bears repeating, and that is that Kevin's combat system is probably the best emanation of it. And he does actually teach techniques, and he does work with resistance, and I like that aspect of it. So that's my evaluation of it. Take it for what it is. If you don't like it, hey, you're always welcome to comment. I pretty much post all the comments unless they're foul. If you use a foul word, I won't post it. But I like to post everything, whether it's good or bad. It doesn't matter to me. If you have some negative comments to say about the video, it's okay. Don't think, oh, this won't get posted. It'll get posted. I will post it unless it's something foul or kind of off topic, like an ad hominem attack or something like that. So if you really have like an intellectual counter criticism to the things I've said, I will be happy to post those. Or approve the post. So thank you so much, and please listen to the Empty Cup podcast. Do me a favor, go to iTunes and write a review and subscribe to the channel for more vlogging and more technical training in Ronin JKD. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.